Hello everybody, this is Kylie. Welcome to another video. So I'm having really bad luck with just some like technological mistakes. Last night I filmed a version of this video and it seems I deleted it off my phone before it was completely uploaded to Google Photos. I don't know how that works. I was on my computer on Google Photos. I could see the 30-minute long video. It was there. And then when I cleared my phone of space, it was gone. So I don't know what I did. Anyways, I'm refilming. I'm gonna call these types of videos, oh no, like I went through a couple of different titles. I thought I would call them tea talks, but I don't really drink tea. Sometimes I drink iced tea, so I scrapped that. Then I was going to call them Kylie Talks About Stuff, and that just seemed boring. And then I was going to call them Thoughts About Life and the World. And I felt like that was going to give people really high expectations. So I think I'm just going to call them Have Lunch With Me. So I'm sitting here at my desk at my office, and I have a turkey sandwich, some salad, some soda, oh, there, and some water. And I'm gonna eat my lunch, or probably not actually eat it when I talk to you, but in these types of videos, I want to talk to you about my opinions on current events, give like a life update, and basically anything that I just like feel like I want to talk about. Whether it has anything to do with YouTube or reading or books, like, I don't know, maybe I'll come up with, maybe, like, sometimes in my reading of books, like, issues will come up and I'll feel like I should say something about them or say my opinions on them, and, yeah, so I think that's what I want to do, so I'm gonna jump into it. Today I'm going to tell you, more about me and my life in the last like 10 years. I'm gonna like super summarize it, because I think that a lot of people think that it's interesting, what I've gone through, and so I thought I would share. And I'm gonna talk about Canada recently legalized marijuana. I'm gonna talk about this whole Trump thing with separating the children from their families, and how I am just like a brutal YouTube newbie in general. And so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so I want to talk about quickly how in my very first video, I think it's titled My First Ever YouTube Video, I talked about my YouTube channels that I like, and I referred to them as small channels. And Book Roast has like 33,000 subscribers. And so I just want to reiterate, I haven't been on YouTube for that long. Like literally only, I can count the months on one hand, how many times, for how long that I've been on YouTube at all. I didn't watch YouTube videos like before Christmas, maybe even like before Easter. Like I didn't watch YouTube at all. I didn't follow channels, like nothing. So, I thought that like big channels were like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I'm sure there are some channels that are like that, but nonetheless, 33,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers, though the booktube channels that I follow, those are like relatively big channels. So I just want to say I'm sorry and I'm stupid. Whatever, I learned. I also learned that binge watching people's YouTube videos is like okay. I thought that it was going to be a super weird thing, because I know that if someone not necessarily likes my video, but if they make comments or if they like comments, I get a notification. So I was like, if I'm watching this person's videos from like 2015, they're going to be like, what the heck are you doing that deep in? But I was watching, I think her name's Marina Ray Reads, I think, and she was talking about binge watching some, like a smaller YouTuber's videos, and I was like, hey, I guess that's okay then. And not frowned upon, so that's great. I also just want to say quickly, because I actually go deeper into this in a different video, but I felt like audiobooks like aren't real books, and I felt like they like didn't count in reading. And I recently just tried audiobooks and watching a lot of like booktube videos, and I'm finding that the general consensus is that they absolutely do count, and you don't have to be visually impaired to enjoy an audiobook. So those are the things that I wanted to say like right away quickly. Now I'm going to tell you about me and my life. Okay, so grow up, happy childhood. Both my parents are still married. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. They're great. They're living their life. So I finished high school and I went to university for a little bit, but I was like jumping around a lot in the different faculties. I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And after I had switched faculties like 3 or 4 times, I decided that I can't get my shit together, and so I need to stop wasting money, my father's money in particular. And just like take a break and maybe do some traveling, figure out what I want to do. So I did. I really always wanted to, and I still want to do more of it, is like volunteering overseas in like some poorer countries or countries that just need help in different areas. And so I found this little animal sanctuary in Costa Rica, and I worked for about 6 or 7 months to save money to go do that. And I went, and I was in Costa Rica for 3 months. On the very first night that I was there at a drunken island party, I met my now husband. So that's pretty exciting. The animal sanctuary turned out to be not what I expected. I don't really know like a quick way to summarize it, but like less of an animal sanctuary, more of a small zoo. And the woman running it is like an expat who's originally from Texas, but she's been living in South America for over 20 years. South Central America, like she's moved around for over 20 years. And she is more than a little bit crazy. And your money that you donate to her, which like she's not getting lots of donations, so like don't worry about it. But your money that you're donating to her and your volunteering that you're doing is really just helping her like drug addiction, and like it's paying for her to live like on that small piece of property where she has these animals. And so a few weeks of that, and that was enough for me. I was less volunteering. I did a few weeks of teaching English at the local elementary school too, but that was also like really non-structured, and it was basically like, oh, okay, you speak English, so here, be a teacher, and you're just like, you have no experience and you're just completely like winging it basically every single day. So, but I did it for a few weeks, and I don't know, like, so I really got to see kind of the elementary school system there, and it needs a little bit of work, but anyways, so I spent 3 months there. I hung out with my husband, like, we met on that first night, and we started really hanging out, I think, like 2 weeks after that. I did kind of speak Spanish when I first went down there. I took Spanish in high school. I took one class of Spanish in university. But I'm not shy, and I really wanted to learn Spanish my whole life. So I had this little dictionary that I carried around with me, and my Spanish got better and better. Like once you know like the basic grammar, and like verb conjugations and things like that, then all you're doing is building vocabulary from there on in, and you're practicing, and you're getting like better in your pronunciation and everything. So I am pretty fluent in Spanish now. But I mean, it was there. I was willing to like put the work in to communicate with people anyways. So I came home, I told people that I met this guy. Everyone thought I was nuts. That he just wanted me for my money and that he didn't actually love me. And of course, we've proved that wrong like quite a few times. So I came back to Canada anyways, and my dad had this job opportunity for me in his accounting company that he owns. And so I took that job, and I realized that like I am totally my father's daughter, and I have an aptitude for bookkeeping and accounting type things. I never took that in school, so I never had any idea about it before. So me and Gerald just continued we just did like a long distance relationship, basically just over the phone. I used Skype to phone his house phone down there because he didn't have like any technology at all, basically. In 2012, we applied for a visitor's visa for him to come to Canada, and it was declined, which was pretty devastating. But actually, only a couple weeks after that happened, his mom had a stroke. And so I felt like, it just wasn't in the cards. Even if it would have gone approved, like she needed him there and stuff. So she's okay, but ever since then, she can't work anymore. And so she struggles financially even more than what normal Costa Rican people struggle. So there was that. So then that summer I started planning our wedding. I went down there in 2013 after the end of tax season. I quit my job and I decided I was going to go down there and live down there. So I packed up all my crap, gave most of it away, but I packed up about 4 suitcases full, and I went down there. My immediate family and a couple of my friends came down for the wedding. It was like a pretty simple beach wedding. I can put up a picture here. It was really nice, and it didn't cost very much, and we just had the reception at the local bar. He's from this like really small town in a rural area, and so there's not much options for, like, I don't know, wedding. And we just got married on the beach, and the people who owned the property like didn't charge us to rent that or whatever. We were only there for an hour anyways. So that was really nice. And then after a week, my family went home. We went for a honeymoon in Nicaragua for a week. Then we came back and life starts. And living in Costa Rica and vacationing in Costa Rica are two very different things. So I got to see down there that the healthcare is, I'm trying to be polite. It could just be so much better. It's just really terrible. And with my volunteering, I saw basically the quality of education that the kids are getting in the public education system. And I had an absolutely terrible time getting a job. I didn't speak fluent enough Spanish at that time yet to be able to get a job like in a bank or like something like that. So I got like an under the table job working in a hotel, and I was making like $2.50 an hour, working 10-hour days, 6 days a week. And it was like in the next town, and the bus didn't run as late as I was supposed to work. So I was like walking for like over an hour to get home in the dark. In Costa Rica is like jungle, like everywhere. So, I don't know, like it was just not good. So like a few months of that and a few months of like really struggling to make ends meet, when your wage is like $2.50 an hour. I kind of decided that this is not something that we could do long term. And I put in and was filling out all the application process for bringing Gerald to Canada. We were married, so as a Canadian, I don't know how it works in other countries, but as a Canadian, I have just a basic right to have my family come and live in Canada with me, whether they're Canadian or not. They obviously have to meet certain criteria, but as long as no one's a criminal and no one has a super contagious disease that's going to put a strain on the Canadian health system, you're pretty much good to go. So we got everything ready, and all we had to do was the medical test, and then it was just a nightmare. We had to go to a special private doctor that was approved by the Canadian government for our medical test, and he had to get a chest x-ray, and the chest x-ray came back that they found something in the chest x-ray. So then we got sent to another private specialist who did a CT. He did a CT I think he did 2 different tests, and it was just ridiculously expensive, and we had to travel to the capital city to go there. So I'm just seeing like all my savings like dwindling away with all this doctor stuff. And in the end, we find out that he has that was tuberculosis, what he had, and the doctor advised us not to apply yet. Because if you apply and the medical shows that he has tuberculosis, they're going to make you wait anyways until it's gone. Like you have to take the treatment, and then the doctors have to do more tests to make sure that it's gone before they're going to let him in Canada anyways, because that's one of those super contagious diseases. Now, it was never active TB. He was never like coughing and like passing it to other people, because tuberculosis stays in your system for years and years. What it'll come out and start being active like when you get sick with something else, when your immune system is already weakened. So he was okay, and he wasn't making other people sick, but he still had it, and he still had to get rid of it. So for 6 months after that, we had a nurse come directly to our house on a motorcycle 6 days a week to watch Gerald take these pills and get the pills, like got rid of the TB. We had to wait that 6 months anyways. In the meantime, I found out that I was pregnant. Yay! But we're seeing the medical system in all its glory in Costa Rica, and I was like, there is no way in hell that I am giving birth to this baby down here, because that is the scariest thing that I can ever think of doing in my whole freaking life. So I went back to Canada after Christmas, and I worked in Canada. Also, like, if you work for a certain number of weeks before you have a baby in Canada, you qualify for a year of paid maternity leave. The government does the paying of it, but you just have to put in a certain amount of hours of work, and they'll pay you a percentage of your wage. It's like 70 or 80%. I don't know. So like I needed that too, because we're already struggling financially, and all that medical stuff, we had completely gone through our savings. So I came back to Canada and went back to work for my dad, and the baby was born in July 2014. Her name's Oceana. She's beautiful. She's almost 4 now. And so as soon as the baby was born, I went through all the steps to get her a passport, and I took her down there as soon as I could. She was about, we get down there in September, July, August. So she was like 2.5 months old when she got to meet her dad. And so that was really nice, and we stayed down there until after Christmas. And we had put our application in by then, before the baby was born. I put the application in because the tuberculosis was gone. And so I'm down there, and I got a phone call from my dad that at work, like, someone had quit, and they would really like me to come back and train the new people that they're going to be hiring, and that they would pay for my plane tickets and everything. So I said, okay. We went back to Canada after Christmas, and I was just working like a few hours a day, but it was enough to help them. Then Gerald got called for an interview for the application to come to Canada and live here, and that was really exciting. But it was also like, what the heck, because the interview was in El Salvador, and Gerald lives in Costa Rica, and that's like a totally different country. And so okay, I kind of asked them, like, why is it in a different country, and like, can he have his interview in Costa Rica? And they were basically like, no, like, that's where your interview is going to be, and that's where you need to go, and if you don't go, you're probably not going to get approved. So, and I'm like, oh, that's great. So I flew down with the baby, met him in El Salvador. He flew from Costa Rica to El Salvador, and we stayed there for a week. He went and did the interview. They didn't even talk to me at all, so I guess I didn't really need to be there, but he wouldn't have been comfortable without me. He has like, suffers from high anxiety, and so that would have been like the craziest, most stressful situation all by himself. So I went with him, and we had a pretty fun week, and he went through the interview, and he did good enough, I guess, because we found out it was like in April sometime, we knew that it was approved, and we were just waiting for, he had to do like the office that processed his application was in Mexico. And so once he's approved, he has to send his passport to them. And they have to like put the visa inside of it. And so we were doing that after tax season ended in the end of April. Me, my sister, my mom, and Oceana, we went down to my parents' vacation home in Indio, California for a week vacation, and then my sister came with me and the baby to Costa Rica to pack up Gerald's things and bring him home. We stayed down there for 3 or 4 weeks, and he got to Canada on May 29th in 2015. So yay, we're in Canada. We were living with my parents because we were so poor. For a while, Gerald was doing English classes, but then we needed him to start working. In about December of that year, he got a job, and they booted him out of English classes because they require him to be there every day, and it was like a Monday to Friday thing. And so anyways, that's why he still doesn't speak super good English, because he couldn't take the English classes while he was working. He has a lot of health problems, and we got him in to see different doctors, and so we were going through all the processes of that. In 2016, in the spring, with my parents' help, we bought our own house and moved out from there, and we lived in our own house. We found out in spring 2016 that I'm pregnant with my second baby, yay! And she was born in November 2016. There wasn't much else that happened. What do I have written down here? Yeah, so, I mean, we were just seeing different doctors and getting pushed up to higher up specialists for Gerald's health problems. And so the next notable thing that happened was this past December, we finally got in to see a neurosurgeon, and he told us that Gerald needed a fairly urgent surgery, and that if he didn't have this surgery on his neck, that he would eventually be paralyzed. So I think it's a no-brainer. So we definitely got ourselves on the list to have the surgery. Then in March, I slipped on the ice and I broke my leg. It was not fun. I had to stay off of it completely for 6 weeks. So I kind of moved in with my parents because my house was really not accessible, and it was just not going to be possible for me to take care of my kids and keep going to work because I wasn't allowed to drive and all this other stuff. And so just when I kind of got to a point where I'm getting back to normal again, the hospital phoned me that they have space for Gerald to have his surgery. So he just 2 weeks ago had his surgery on his neck, and they've taken 2 of his discs in his like that are the discs are in between the vertebra, and they took 2 of them out, put fake ones in, put a plate, put screws, and now he's in a collar and he's off work for like 4 to 5 months. So here we are, poor again. But yeah, that is my life in a nutshell. I think I got through everything that I said, and I didn't talk for that long. Okay, so our future plans basically right now is just for him to recover from his surgery. While he's recovering, maybe he can study English, and maybe he can get his learner's driver's license. That would be really exciting. And we're hoping to go back to Costa Rica and eventually take our kids to Disneyland, Disney World hopefully go to Costa Rica in 2019, maybe Disney in 2020. Those are kind of things that we're saving for. Okay, that's my life. I did a lot of umming. I'm sorry about that. Okay, then the kind of like hot topics that I wanted to talk about. When I filmed this video last night, I mean, now it's kind of like not even as big a deal. Everyone was making a big kerfluffle about Trump and how he's separating the children from the parents, and it is absolutely super disgusting. I listened to that audio clip of the children, it's all you can hear is like kids are crying for their dad. There's a lot of audio of this one little girl, she sounds like she's maybe 7 or 8 years old. She keeps asking them, please, can you just let me phone my auntie? My mom made me memorize the phone number. I know the phone number. I just want to phone her. And when I phone her, you just tell her where I am and she can come pick me up. And she's like begging. She's like begging them to let her phone her auntie. There's this guy who's like some sort of a security guard in the background, and he is like making some stupid joke about like all the kids and all the noise that they're making. And oh my God, I just can't even. And so I'm really upset about that. Like I understand that they were trying to do it to deter people from coming, but if people are coming and they're escaping from dangerous situations, whether it's like some sort of a war or like civil war, or like even like extreme like with the drug cartels and things like that. Like I'm not exactly sure where these people are coming from. I think the kids in the video, they're from Central America somewhere, so they're from either I'm thinking either Guatemala or Honduras. Like those are kind of like dangerous-y places in Central America. So I understand that you're trying to deter people from coming, but even if they do separate the children from parents, that is still better in the parent's mind. Like, I'm just thinking about it logically. That is still better because at least everybody's safe than if you stay in your, like, war-torn country and you're worried about, you know, getting shot on your way to the grocery store, right? So, like, you got to think about that. Like, these people, and also what they're doing is not illegal. It's not illegal to come into a country and apply for asylum. It's not actually illegal. Like, they shouldn't actually be putting people in jail. I know that these people are crossing into the United States where there's not like an official border patrol, but that's because the border patrol area is really overloaded, and they're not treating people nicely over there either. So these people just don't have a choice. So we saw last night in the news, and actually this morning, that Trump signed an order that they're not going to be doing that anymore, that they can't separate the families. The families need to stay together if they're being detained somewhere, which that's really great, but what are you doing about the 2,000 children that are currently separated from their parents? We just don't see any plans yet on how they are going to be reuniting families, or like what kind of process they're going to be is that in there, because actually what's actually happened is once the children were separated from their parents, which lots of times they tricked them into it too, like the people working wherever they were telling the parents like they're just going to take the kid and go give them a bath, or they're just going to take them to another room to play. They have these toys in another room, and then they would just not bring the children back. So it's actually like really disgusting what they were doing. And so there's all these kids separated from their parents. There's like 2,000 kids, and so they were within 72 hours of taking the kids from the parents, they had to hand the kids over to I forget the official name of it, but it's basically like social services in the United States, where there are these social workers looking after the kids. And what can happen is the social workers, I'm sure they have, well, there was the one that's on the news, they're taking pictures of like with the kids in the cages and stuff. But I feel like that was probably a temporary place for them to be. And that when they were taking these kids, they would find a more appropriate place for them, which would be in like with foster families and things like that. So these kids are going to be spread out like everywhere. And good luck. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they better figure out a way, because like, my God, these poor children. And I just want to say, like, I really don't agree with that. And I think like, oh my God, like whoever just thought of that, like that's just disgusting. Okay, and then my last thing that I want to talk about, because this video is getting to be half an hour long now, and there's not going to be much cutting out because I was just talking really fast the whole time, is Canada legalized marijuana federally like a couple of days ago, and it's gonna, the provinces have 12 weeks, I think at the end of October, October 17th is a date that I saw somewhere, that it's going to be all, everything's going to be all set up, and it's going to be legal everywhere, and you're going to be able to buy it in like special stores and stuff. I think that this is excellent. When you decriminalize marijuana, you see, like, you just don't have like hippies in jail. You don't have people that were just caught smoking pot. These are non-violent people, and if you're throwing them in jail, then that's taxpayers' dollars going towards feeding and taking care of these people who, like, oh my God, like they were just smoking a joint, like really. Then we have police focusing on obviously harder crimes, and if people are having addiction problems, which I don't think is as big of a deal with marijuana as it is like with actual narcotics, but then you should be treating them like they have like a medical condition rather than like a criminal. And so this is amazing that this is happening. Then also, when you legalize marijuana, you get to tax it. So the government gets to bring in money. We know that for the first 2 years, 75% of the money that, the tax money that is made from the sale of marijuana is going to each of the provinces. In Canada, it's the provinces that pay for their own healthcare and education. So I'm thinking that that's where most of the money is going to be going to. And that's awesome, because that's money that we didn't have before. People were paying for marijuana before, but just like on the street directly to, some drug dealer, whatever. Our drug dealer is a nice guy with like 4 kids. So I kind of feel bad, because as soon as it's legal, I'm not going to be buying from him anymore. I'm going to be buying from the store. But that's money that people were spending anyways, and it wasn't getting taxed. And so I don't know, like it's just so good, because we're going to just bring in extra money like that, and the money is going to be going into the economy. And because we're selling it in stores, just like alcohol and tobacco, we're going to be able to keep it out of the hands of the younger people that shouldn't be smoking it yet. There's lots of studies of marijuana that show that if kids are starting to smoke it, like in their preteens or in their young teens, it's really, really affecting their brains for the long term. And that's very bad, and we don't want that. And so, I'm sure some kids are going to be able to find people that are going to like pull for them, just like how people get older kids or adults to buy them alcohol and cigarettes. But right now, as it stands, like kids can just go to some random person and just get drugs. And that's what we need to stop. It's going to be a lot harder. I'm sure there are some adults that are going to buy some for kids, but it's not going to be to the extent that kids have it available to them now, which is awesome. And then because they have to sell the marijuana somewhere that they don't already sell alcohol and that they don't already sell cigarettes, they're not letting marijuana be sold in the same location as the sale of either of those. So that means that this is going to create jobs, which is also an awesome thing. And also, I just want to say, like, people are saying, like, oh, like, marijuana is a drug, like, it shouldn't be legal. Well, my argument, like, again, like, for that is, at least marijuana has, like, something, like, some good benefits to it. People smoke marijuana or take it or whatever to help with chronic pain and to help with anxiety and things like that. And it is really helpful, and it does really make those people have like such a better, higher quality of life. And when you look at alcohol and tobacco, those things were just legalized and regulated because I feel like the government was like, well, everyone's kind of into this, and we can't really stop them from doing it, so let's just let's legalize it and put some limits on it and tax it, make some money off of it. There's literally no good benefit of alcohol or cigarettes. There's only bad thing comes from both of them. And So I don't think like marijuana is worse than either of those things. I think that the government just recognizes that it's a necessary thing, that marijuana is something that's wildly used across the population, and that it's something that they can make money off of, and that it's something that they recognize that if that this is wildly used, then we need to regulate it and make laws surrounding it. So, I mean, deciding that it's not a dangerous drug or that it's not classed the same as like a narcotic, is a big deal, because it's not along those lines. So I don't know. I think this is just a generally positive thing that they've legalized marijuana. And I don't know, I think that's my main points that I wanted to say about it. So I think I'm done, and now I actually need to eat my lunch. So I'm gonna stop videotaping, but I'll just say in my outro here, if you like my videos, so like them and subscribe and comment and be my friend, because that's the whole point of me starting a YouTube channel. I just wanted to meet people from everywhere and make friends around the world. If there is some topics that you wanted to know my opinion about, you can put them in the comments. I'm gonna put some links to some news articles and stuff, like where I got some of my information when I'm talking about the Trump stuff and the marijuana stuff. I think that's all. So you guys just have a good day, and let me know what you think about the stuff that I said in the comments. Bye.